Part 60. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 591. Chapter 591, Desire for Exclusivity. He is paranoid, sinister, and always has a sense of hostility in his heart. If Zhang Junlin leaves him, he will definitely do terrible things. This is a disease. He even hid it from Lu Ziwen and treated him for 5 years. He won't tell Zhang Junlin that he wants to become better, not by pretending to be Ji Xian who is loved by everyone, nor by pretending to be someone Zhang Junlin likes. He wanted to truly become what Zhang Junlin liked. He understood from the beginning that this bond was forced by him. Without his insistence, Zhang Junlin would have gotten married and had children long ago. Living the life he planned, he might already have children. For this obsession in his heart, he has done something very outrageous, but he has been restraining himself and restraining himself. There is an abyss ahead, and he must not sink in the darkness. He must face life with a smile and face the light. He must become healthy in the true sense. He will be affected by Zhang Junlin's slightest emotions, and he will also be haunted by Zhang Junlin's words for a long time. He sensitively captures all his emotions, and he even wants to control Zhang Junlin's life and emotions. But Zhang Junlin was too powerful and he couldn't do it, so he changed his direction and obeyed. He gradually achieved results. He should be satisfied. Seek benevolence and get benevolence. A few years ago, this was already the best situation. But Zhang Junlin allowed him to become greedy. He wanted more, he wanted to give him everything he had, and he also wanted to be the only one in his heart and share his career and life. This greed gathered into a sea during his stay in the hospital. He must do something to satisfy what he wanted in his heart. Zhang Junlin provided him with a good choice. He was really eaten to death by Zhang Junlin. Every time he was not satisfied, Zhang Junlin could always cleverly point out a new direction so that he could get the greatest satisfaction, whether it was intentional or unintentional. Ji Sun was even obsessed with this charm. He couldn't help but think that this time he got half of Zhang Junlin's net worth, so what would Zhang Junlin do to satisfy him next time he was dissatisfied? Whether he will be transformed beyond recognition by greed. Ji Sun is such a contradictory person. He wants to, but is afraid of becoming hateful. What are you thinking about? Zhang Junlin looked at his fingers, gently stroked his ring finger, and visually measured Ji Sun's size. He wanted to order a matching ring. Ji Sun's hand bones were almost the same as his, and his fingers were slender. Wearing a ring will definitely look good. It's so unfair to you, Ji Sun said. Half of my net worth is not even a fraction of yours. You must be at a disadvantage. Ji Sun is self-made. All his assets have been accumulated in the Blackhawks in the past 10 years. In the secular definition, he is a billionaire. He has no shortage of funds, stocks, and real estate. He spends a lot of money and can live comfortably for 10 lifetimes. Wealth is accumulated at an astonishing rate every year. But no matter how much he accumulates, it is only a drop in the bucket compared to Zhang Junlin. The Zhang family has accumulated it for generations. The entire Ji-dao belongs to Zhang Junlin, and there is also a huge Wallen bank. No matter what, it is Zhang Junlin who suffers. I want to give it to you, Zhang Junlin said, then it is fair. He knew in his heart that what Ji Xian wanted was not his family property. No matter how ignorant he was, he would not ask for half of a person's net worth, let alone his, which was an astonishing amount of wealth. Ji Sun Bingxiu is smart and transparent. Money is never what he wants. He can't spend all his own money in his lifetime, so why take half of his net worth? What Ji Sun wanted from beginning to end was his affirmation. In the past he was stingy and didn't want to give, but now he wants to give Ji Sun the sense of security he wants. Gu Si knew that Zhang Junlin was going to take Ji Sun home to recuperate, so she thought a little numbly, is this okay? Grandma, Grandpa acquiesced. We haven't seen Xiao Beihua since she fell off her horse last time, and now she is home to recuperate from a gunshot wound. That's a little inappropriate, right? Gu Xi and Gu Ziyu have been to the world more frequently in recent days. After Lu Ziwen woke up, his health was very average. When Gu Xi and Gu Ziyu did not come to the world, his pastime was to go racing. After Gu Xi receives the video from Li Zhang, he will bring Gu Ziyu to Universal to have dinner with him. Occasionally spend the night at Universal. Gu Ziyu has been a little obsessed with racing recently. After dinner, he will ask Lu Ziwen to teach him how to play racing. He is young and theoretically cannot play racing. He is not yet old enough and he dislikes karts. Lu Ziwen has someone assemble a kart. It was more suitable for his age and height. Gu Xi didn't agree with the boy's desire to play racing. He was still a little too young, so both father and son ignored her suggestion. Gu Ziyu also likes racing, it is really engraved in his genes. When he was a child, he always despised racing cars, but when he grew up, he liked racing. Now when he is sent to work, he will occasionally dislike mom for driving so slowly. Lu Ziwen taught Gu Ziyu how to play racing cars. If they didn't control themselves at night, they could play until 11 or 12 o'clock. Gu Xi would limit their time, and the game would end after an hour and a half. Gu Ziyu was still unsatisfied every time. Dad, why doesn't mom like me playing racing cars? Gu Ziyu was wearing racing clothes and sitting in a go-kart. Lu Ziwen was checking the condition of the car for him. He glanced at Gu Xi not far away, chuckled and said, "Mom thinks racing is too dangerous." Then she didn't even stop you. I can fly, can you? Gu Ziyu rolled his eyes, you can fly, but you still got knocked over in the last game. As a young man grows up, his back talk becomes more and more sharp. Gu Ziyu continued to practice under the supervision of the coach. Lu Ziwen came to find Gu Xi. Gu Xi looked at Gu Ziyu in the distance, met Lu Ziwen's smile and asked, "Are you so happy?" Ziyu has always been opposed to racing. I don't know where he got interested in it recently. Of course I will teach him well. He is smart and learns quickly. Is my master okay? Lu Ziwen stood side by side with her and stretched out his hand. Take her hand and interlock your fingers. Gu Xi's hand was a little cold in the night. Lu Ziwen placed it on his palm and rubbed it gently. What you are worried about will not happen. Don't worry. I have nothing to worry about. Don't hold on, I died in a car accident that year, and a few years ago, I was knocked down on the field. You have long been shadowed in your heart. You wish you could hire a driver to take your children to and from get off work, but you don't want him to take the driver's license test himself. Am I right? Lu Ziwen knew Gu Xi, and he could tell what she was worried about by looking at her. You also know what I'm worried about, and you still teach him. He won't take up my mantle, and he won't race cars in the future. It's okay to just take it as a hobby. Lu Ziwen chuckled and said, Xiao Xi, relax. Gu Xi also wanted to relax, but she was always worried. She always felt that there was an indissoluble bond between Lu Ziwen and the car accident. Gu Xi shook her head and changed the topic. After Ji Xian returns to China, he will recuperate at his brother's house. On the day he comes back, do you want to come to dinner with us? End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 592. Chapter 592, whose vinegar bucket was overturned. Tomorrow is Saturday. Gu Xi and Gu Ziyu don't go to work. They both live in Universal. Gu Ziyu was a little excited after practicing his car. He went back upstairs and ran 2 laps. The excited young man didn't notice the relationship between his parents. Of silence. After taking a bath, Gu Xi read a paper on the balcony. It was a paper just published by the cardiology department. The point of view was very novel. Gu Ci devoted herself to the research and concentrated on it. When Lu Ziwen hugged her from behind with moisture all over her body, Gu Ci was a little surprised, smiled, and turned around to kiss him for a long time. After a passionate kiss, Lu Ziwen asked, "Are you angry?" "Why am I angry?" "Then why haven't you spoken?" Gu Ci raised her hand to read the paper. It hurt her eyes to keep looking at the electronic screen, so she printed it out. Lu Ziwen, who knew only a little about medicine, also knew that she was reading the paper, so he was not really angry. Gu Ci did not expect that Lu Ziwen would decline. She invited Lu Ziwen to have dinner with her after careful consideration. Ever since the research institute heard the information that Lu Ziwen unconsciously revealed, Gu Ci had not had a good night's sleep. She was always afraid of losing him one day, so she uncharacteristically, she took Gu Ziu to stay overnight all over the world. Anyway, the curse was about to come true. It was better for the three of them to live happily and reunited than to live in two places again. The ending would not change. She couldn't bear to be angry with Lu Ziwen. "Why don't you want to go home and have dinner together?" That was a reunion dinner in the true sense. Lu Ziwen hugged her and sat on his lap. He put his arm around Gu Ci's waist. Gu Ci leaned back against him as soft as a bone. Lu Ziwen hugged her and said, "It doesn't feel right. I've never been used to that kind of thing occasion." Gu Ci secretly thought that this excuse was really random. "There was a time when I was particularly longing for family affection. After being rejected by my family, I have been living in a deserted way. It has been like this for so many years, and I am used to it. The Zhang family is your family, with or without me. It's your family, and my relationship with Zhang Junlin is also very special. It's not suitable to get too close. A visit would be too intimate." Gu Ci knew as soon as he heard that he was making excuses, half-truths, and half-lies. This must not be the main reason. She didn't expose it either. "You are quite deserted." Gu Ci put down the paper, hugged his neck, and said softly, "I met Uncle Lu in the hospital a few days ago. Did you know? You mentioned it. He didn't go to the central hospital instead, he came to Nanjing Hospital. Guess why?" Gu Ci asked calmly. "I can guess it." Lu Ziwen smiled and couldn't help but sigh, "I don't know how to get along with him. In this life, he was very good to me and was a good father. Although we were always arguing with him back then, if he was ill, I am still very worried when I have the memory, but after I have the memory, I am very conflicted. He wants to call his dad, but I can't say it out loud. It's not because I don't have deep feelings, but it's a little weird. I have lived too long. The relationship is weak, and I have never expected anyone to give me fatherly or maternal love. If I don't expect it, I don't feel it. During the holidays, I can go back and have a meal with him, which is considered filial piety. I do more things. No, I know that in his heart, I am his son, but in your heart, your parents in the first life are your parents, right?" Gu Ci asked. Lu Ziwen shook his head, "It's unfair to Lao Lu. I think he and his son have a weak relationship. After 20 years of getting along with him, we haven't accumulated a deep relationship, so it's hard for me to empathize with him after I have memories. But third brother likes racing, but you also like it very much. So, the stronger the emotion, the more empathy we can have. If it is weak, it will be difficult to feel the same way. He is the third young master and the third master, combined into a contradictory body. Do you want me to visit him?" Gu Ci nodded. "Uncle Lu has taken great care of our mother and son. If he hadn't changed his will in the last life and wanted to leave everything to his son, he might not have suffered any accidents. He actually loves you very much. If you don't have any father-son feelings for him, no, it's really unfair to him." "I know," Lu Ziwen said, "I will go see him." Gu Ci thought to herself that Lu Ziwen was really aloof. Perhaps he knew that his feelings for everyone would eventually fade and they would eventually leave him one by one, so he rarely established deep feelings with people. He doesn't make friends or interact with his relatives. Even with Lu Ziyi, his relationship is very weak. Except for Ji Huan and Rong Li, he has no friends. If Ji Huan and Rong Li were not his right-hand men and their friendship was necessary, Lu Ziwen might not even make friends. Apart from them, he has no friends. Even the third young master has no friends. He focuses on his career and tries to keep a certain distance from others. Gu Ci can also understand that indifference is his protective color. Only indifference will prevent him from being sad when someone he cares about leaves. Gu Ci felt a little softer and kissed the corner of his mouth. There was a moist mist in her eyes, and there was pure seduction. Lu Ziwen's eyes dimmed. Are you pitying me? Gu Ci shook his head. You are not pitiful at all. Yeah, don't pity me, just love me well. Lu Ziwen kissed her. Chang Junlin's plane landed at 10 o'clock. Gu Ziyu got up a little late and had breakfast in a hurry. He insisted on going to the airport with Gu Ci. Lu Ziwen said, you can just go back to Jiang's house. What are you going to the airport for? I haven't seen my brother for a long time, so of course I have to go see him. Gu Ziyu held a piece of bread in his mouth, drank all the milk in one breath, and gnawed on a stick of corn. Gu Ci had packed it away, and Gu Ziyu held the corn in his mouth. Just go out with her. Lu Ziwen clicked his tongue. What are you going to do so early? When you land at 10 o'clock, you have to go through customs. Even if you go early, you have to wait. Neither Gu Ci nor Gu Ziyu listened to him, so they waved and entered the elevator. Gu Ziyu asked coolly, are you really not coming to eat with us? Don't go. Then bye. As the elevator door closed, Gu Ziyu said, Mom, why doesn't Dad come home with us? He is shy. Gu Ci said nonsensically, he doesn't want an ugly daughter-in-law to see her parents-in-law. Gu Ziyu had a dull face and gnawed on the corn. Do I look so easy to deceive? Gu Ci laughed. It was indeed still early when mother and son arrived at the airport. They found a coffee shop and sat chatting. After the plane landed safely, Gu Ci sent a message to Zhang Junlin. Gu Ziyu sent a message to Ji Suan. Ji Huan slept all the way back and woke up after the plane landed. Someone from Jidao said hello. Zhang Junlin and his party passed through customs very quickly. Gu Ziyu saw Ji Huan was sick and said, you have lost a lot of weight. He directly kneaded Ji Sun's face with his hands, like playing with a doll. He held Ji Sun's face and squeezed it. You have no flesh left. Zhang Junlin looked at Gu Ziyu's hand and his eyelids twitched slightly. Gu Ziyu will be as tall as them in a few years. He is a half-grown child. People know that they are brothers, but those who don't know think they are a young couple. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 593. Chapter 593 Engagement is on the agenda. Ji Sun and Gu Ziyu didn't notice Zhang Junlin's displeasure, nor did Gu Ci. After meeting and greeting each other, they went out together. Gu Ci drove a 7-seater car over. The place was quite spacious, and it was close to the guards all parked their cars at the airport. After checking that there were no problems, they went back to Jiang's house together. Why would my dad allow you to go to my house to recuperate? Gu Ziyu asked curiously. He was quite surprised. He asked Lu Ziwen in the morning, and Lu Ziwen looked like he didn't want to answer. Gu Ziyu went out before he could ask more questions. An unequal treaty was signed. Then you're a bit miserable. Gu Ziyu peeled an orange and fed it to him. How many days will you take care of it? Ji Xian glanced at Zhang Junlin and motioned to Gu Ziyu to ask on his behalf. Gu Ziyu asked, Uncle, how long will you raise your brother? Grow up well. That's at least a month. Gu Ziu quickly fed him half of the oranges, and Zhang Junlin said, Ziu, you should pay attention to your seniority. Gu Ziu was confused. In name, do you want to call me dad or brother? Gu Si almost laughed out loud, and Ji Sun was also a little confused. Didn't Ziu always call him brother? Gu Ziu actually didn't care about the title. What's your name? Little daddy. Ji Huan has a black line on his head. Don't. Zhang Junlin said calmly, okay. Ji Sun. Brother had rejection written all over his face. Gu Ziu said, he doesn't like being called that by me. Ji Sun, no. Little daddy, Gu Ziu shouted happily. Ji Xian had a dark look on his face. Gu Ziu laughed loudly, brother, your expression is so funny, I should record it. Gu Ziu is lively and cheerful now. Zhang Junlin and Gu Si are both taciturn people. With him around, they are all filled with laughter and laughter. Ji Sun is inexplicably a little nervous. Even more nervous than the first time he came. The first time he came, at least he was mentally prepared and in good health. Now that he was here to recuperate, they still had to take care of him during this period. Ji Sun was indescribably nervous, but Zhang Junlin looked as usual. Zhang Minghua and his wife were waiting for them outside. They came back just in time to have lunch. The old lady and the old man were also waiting for them in the yard. They were not overly enthusiastic, but they were not cold either. There were no awkward greetings from Ji Sun, and all the greetings were just right, refreshing. Ji Sun has been here once, so he is not familiar with them, and they are no longer strangers. During this period of time to recover from his injuries, the family just planned to cultivate a relationship with Ji Sun. The old man was soft-hearted, and he felt heartbroken when he saw that Ji Sun had lost a lot of weight compared to the last time. The old lady and the old man both served him soup and vegetables, asking him to eat more. Ji Sun was in pain from his wound and didn't have a particularly good appetite, but he was very supportive. They all also knew that Ji Sun was shot and was lucky to survive, so they all took good care of him. Seeing that Ji Huan was eating reluctantly, Zhang Junlin said softly, Grandma, don't serve him soup. His wound hurts and he can't eat much. Give it to him later when he's hungry. Then you must say it when you are hungry. You are welcome at home. Sister Gui's cooking is delicious. Tell her whatever you like to eat. Grandma put the soup aside. Ji Sun was moved and heartwarming, and he also it was the first time that I was cared for by an elder like this, and the treatment was completely different from the last time I came to the Zhang family. Ji Sun was low on energy and needed to rest. He felt a little sleepy after lunch. Lin Chunli said, Xiao Sun, go to bed early and recuperate before we chat. The room is ready, just next to Junlin, he can stay in my room. Zhang Junlin said. The living room was eerily quiet for a moment. Gu Ziu ate a piece of melon, and everyone seemed to have come back to their senses. Lin Chunli said awkwardly, that's okay, so you can take care of him. Ji Sun's ears were red from his ears to his neck. He was so embarrassed that he wanted to dig into the ground and stay in his brother's room, which was not good. While he felt not very good, he also felt a secret happiness. Living in his house, living in his room, with his grandparents and parents there, isn't this the status he has always wanted? Zhang Junlin had everything he wanted in place. Ji Huan didn't have time to be embarrassed. Nick and Zhang Qiang took his luggage up, placed daily necessities in the bedroom and bathroom, and hung up his clothes one by one. Zhang Junlin accompanied Ji Huan upstairs to rest. In the living room, there was still an eerie silence after they left. After a long time, the old man said, isn't that quite in line with the rules? The old lady nodded, and Zhang Minghua also scratched his head. It was indeed against the rules. Gu Ziu didn't understand what they were talking about, and there was a question mark. Gu Si explained, for example, if my brother is in love and brings his girlfriend home for the second time, firstly, we are not engaged, and secondly, we have not met the elders of both parties to confirm the wedding date. If we stay at home, we must sleep in separate rooms and cannot sleep together. Just like if you go home with your girlfriend to meet your parents, you cannot do so in front of their parents. Sleeping in my girlfriend's room. The Zhang family is a family of scholars, so they pay more attention to these etiquette. Guzio suddenly realized, oh, but he is your boyfriend, so it doesn't matter. Everybody. The old man and the old lady looked at each other without saying a word. They accepted him to recuperate at home and acquiesced in their relationship. Nowadays, there really shouldn't be any etiquette. It was already very deviant. Forget it, the old lady said, as long as they are happy. Lin Chunli also said, Xiao Xian is still injured, with 2 gunshot wounds. It is indeed easier to take care of her if we live together. We won't talk about these etiquette. Dad, what do you think? If you really mind, Xiao Xian is an orphan, so there is no parents, it's up to us to make the decision. Let them get engaged or something, and inform the family, then it's all right. In fact, the people who care about etiquette the most are the old man and Zhang Minghua. Both father and son are relatively orthodox. Wow! Guzio whistled, that brother will be so happy. Guzio poked him, you are happier than him. I'm happy for him. After so many years of being a wife and a mother-in-law, after chasing my uncle for so many years, I finally got what I wanted. I feel humbled even when I look at him. How good it is. Guzio deliberately spoke out and wanted to let his family know. How much Ji Sun paid? You are partial to the Pacific Ocean. Zhang Minghua was overjoyed. Do you like him so much? You guys like it too. Guzio broke the point, why else would you have agreed to let him come to recuperate? This time he was injured and almost died. It's so pitiful. If we talk about pedantic rules, it seems too unhuman, right? Yeah, great-grandpa. You have a lotus tongue, my great-grandfather cannot compare to you. I am helping the manager, not the bride. Guzio thought to herself, but she didn't see it. The elders of the Zhang family saw that the matter was a foregone conclusion, and indeed no longer struggled with it. They turned a blind eye and passed it by, and the most difficult step was taken. Good night. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 594. Chapter 594 Tit for Tat. Upstairs, Ji Sun was a little tired after a long flight, but he was very excited mentally. He watched his daily necessities being laid out one by one, and his clothes were hung one by one in the cloakroom. His shirts, t-shirts, home clothes, suits. Obviously there is no need for formal clothes to recuperate, so Nick packed a box of formal clothes for him. In Zhang Junlin's cloakroom, most of the clothes were designed by Ji Sun himself, and only a few were from grandma and mother when they went shopping. Bought for him, Ji Xian looked over and felt that the entire cloakroom belonged to him. This kind of happiness is fresh and greedy, and he becomes greedy in this kind of happiness. This was something he had never dreamed of before. He didn't even dare to expect that one day he would be able to step foot here. The first time he came to City A, he had come secretly and had fantasies, but in all his fantasies, he forced it. Zhang Junlin brought the medicine over and poured him a glass of warm water to take it. Ji Xian's eyes were dark and bright, with a small fire hidden inside. Zhang Junlin felt moved and pinched his cheek. Go to sleep. You take a nap with me. Zhang Junlin shook his head, I still have something to deal with. Once it's done, I'll sleep with you before you wake up. Oh well. After Zhang Junlin went out, Ji Huan opened his eyes. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep at all. The sheets and quilts had been changed. He had been exposed to the sun and could smell the smell of sunshine and the woody rosin on Zhang Junlin's body. Ji Huan put his face against it holding the pillow. He wanted to roll this breath into his body and turn it into his breath. He breathed carefully. He was so excited that he couldn't sleep. He took his mobile phone to share his happiness with Rong Li. Rong Li was so busy that he didn't have time to eat lunch. He got very angry when he saw Ji Sun's sharing. He was too lazy to listen to his sharing of happiness, so he raised his hand and blocked him. When Ji Sun sent another happy expression, a red one appeared. The exclamation mark reminds the other party that he or she is not his friend and must be added as a friend before sending text messages. Ji Sun. Single dogs are so pitiful. Downstairs, Gu Ziu ate 3 slices of melon and drank a bottle of iced carbonated drink. He stuffed the little cherries into his mouth one after another. The old lady doted on him. If it weren't for the fact that cherries were difficult to peel, they would have wanted to. I peeled the core of him myself before feeding him. Gu Ci coughed and said calmly, Ziu, control your diet. If you eat like this, you will grow into a little fat man. Gu Ziu clenched his fists and showed off his muscles. Mom, I'm still very thin. He is growing up at his age, so he should eat more, Lin Chunli said with a smile. Ziyu was nothing like Gu Ci and Zhang Junlin. Both Gu Ci and Zhang Junlin were the kind of people who rarely ate snacks and junk food after leaving the table. He was very controlling about his diet, even when he was a teenager. The old man and Zhang Minghua had very strict rules for Zhang Junlin, and they began to consciously teach him to overcome his appetite at the age of 3. But they felt sorry for Gu Ziu and never had any control over him. Half of the food on the dining table was Gu Ziu's favorite food. He wanted to feed it to his mouth, and he was treated like a little emperor. You have gained 6 pounds in the past 2 months, Gu Ci reminded him expressionlessly. Then I grew 2 centimeters taller. Gu Ziu is 1.7 meters tall, even taller than Gu Ci. Gu Ci has some loose and unisex sweatshirts that Gu Ziu can wear. He is tall, thin, and upright, and has a bottomless appetite, so he has not gained much weight. A few people were chatting about their daily life when Zhang Junlin came downstairs. Xiao Xian is asleep. He is still very energetic. He may have fallen asleep after playing with his mobile phone for a while. Zhang Junlin glanced at his watch and said, I have to go out for a trip, so you don't need to take care of him specially. His wounds are recovering and his movements are not restricted. Take too much care of him, on the contrary, it will make you feel uncomfortable. Then what time will you come back? Zhang Junlin glanced at his watch and said, try to make it 4 o'clock. He left after explaining. Zhang Minghua said, where are you going in a hurry just after returning home? Brother has delayed some work and may have to deal with it, Gu Ci said. Gu Ci couldn't stay at Jiang's house all afternoon. She left Ziyu behind. Then I'll go to the hospital too. Zhang Junlin left, but Ji Sun's guards did not leave. They were all outside the courtyard. The Zhang family would be more familiar with Zhang Qiang and the others, but they were strangers to Nick and the others, and they didn't know how to greet them. There was a 2-story small building next to the villa. The villa is where Zhang Qiang and others rest. Lin Chunli and Nick said that if anyone is tired, they can go there and rest. Nick declined very politely, but accepted the fruit brought out by Lin Chunli. In the living room, the Zhang family was worried about a problem. How can we live with so many people? Zhang Minghua was worried. Zhang Junlin's guards all had their own houses, but when Zhang Junlin was at home, most of them slept in the small villa, with a total of 6 rooms on 2 floors and a kitchen. Gui's wife usually makes them for them, and there are 8 people in Ji Sun's guard, so they can't sleep in the car at night. This is not simple. When their relationship is stable, let them go out and live on their own. The old man was very open-minded. Junlin has so many properties, why do you live at home? When you get married, go out and live by yourself. Ziyu can live with us. Everybody. Everyone was stunned into silence, but the old lady still hoped that Zhang Junlin could stay at home, where there would be a lot of people. It's enough to come back once a week for a meal. Who would live with the elders for such an old child? He needs to get married normally, and other girls don't want to live with the elders. Okay, Zhang Minghua said, I'll tell him later that we can't live in the house and let him and Xiaoxian go out to live. The old lady was also done with it. It's up to you, as long as I meet you. Gu Ziu held a piece of melon and instantly felt that this sweet burden was really too heavy. Chang Junlin made an appointment with Lu Ziwen for afternoon tea. When he arrived, Lu Ziwen had already arrived. The conflict between the Yakuza and Black Hawk also sounded a wake-up call for them. For so many years, the conflicts between the Yakuza and Black Hawk have been constant. They ignored it and didn't take it to heart. They always felt that the small conflicts would slowly fade away over time. But this conflict led to the deterioration of the relationship between the two parties. Lu Ziwen and Zhang Junlin both took it seriously. This time the Ji-Dao was reported by the Black Eagle people, and one died and several were injured. Zhang Junlin accepted this outcome and swallowed it, not because of Ji Sun. In recent years, he has also been relatively negligent and failed to pay attention to the conflicts between the two parties, causing irreparable losses. Things have happened and the consequences have been dealt with, but the follow-up must be resolved well to avoid similar problems from happening again. While Zhang Junlin was with Ji Sun in the hospital, he did not miss work. He compiled a list of hostile personnel from Black Hawk and Ji-Dao. Zhang Junlin said, I suggest that both parties set up a special group to mediate. It won't work once. It's just 2 times. There's really no way to reconcile it. Either I'll be fired or I'll change my position. What do you think? Similar to court mediation, if mediation fails, then the judgment will be made. Zhang Junlin nodded, this is my idea. This time the conflict is serious, and others can also see the clues. The foundation of our cooperation is unstable, and there will be various contradictions and conflicts in the future. With so many people, we can't. If we take care of them one by one, others will take advantage of us and know how to divide us. Lu Ziwen took a look at the list compiled by Zhang Junlin. Zhang Junlin was reliable and prudent. He had researched all the information about Black Hawk and marked it with black, red and green. Green is a small event and can be easily adjusted. Red it is medium, and the probability of mediation is relatively high. Black is hostile, difficult to adjust, and requires more effort. When he was looking at the information, Zhang Junlin added, you should take a closer look at Black Eagle's information to see if there are any omissions of. Just talk to Ji Sun about this. He is recuperating. Zhang Junlin's lips formed a straight line. Lu Ziwen, he works more than 14 hours a day and sleeps an average of 4-6 hours a day. You still have time to play racing. That's not how animals are used, right? Lu Ziwen leaned back and looked at Zhang Junlin with a half smile. Ji Sun has been working like this since he was a boy. It was normal for 3 days and 3 nights without seeing Mr. Zhang. What's your opinion? This is your Black Hawk's business, I have no right to interfere. Now you feel you have the right to ask questions again. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 595. Chapter 595. He once wrote a letter to you. Zhang Junlin looked at Lu Ziwen silently. Both of them had very strong auras. Not far away, Li Zhang and Zhang Qiang were both breaking into cold sweats. They were talking, but don't let the conversation fall apart. Neither of the two masters had a good temper. They are not easy to get along with. If the talks really break down, it will definitely be someone else who suffers. Lu Ziwen, don't you want to talk? Zhang Junlin asked with a cold face. Mr. Zhang, don't get me wrong. I have a more convenient way. Why don't you listen to it? Lu Ziwen smiled half-heartedly, always calm and calm. The more Zhang Junlin cared about Ji Sun, the less he would lose when negotiating with Lu Ziwen. This is inevitable. Say, Zhang Junlin poured a cup of tea to calm down the fire. Lu Ziwen said, Ji Sun has done a good job balancing multiple relationships in the past 5 years. Black Hawk is very stable internally. He lacks a status. Ranks are very mysterious, especially in the minds of employees of a large company. No matter what Ji Sun has been doing in the past few years, how much power he has gained and how many things he has done. In fact, he can make decisions on his own and control the development direction of Black Hawk. In the eyes of others, I am still the master. Therefore, I plan to announce internally that Black Hawk will be officially handed over to Ji Sun. I quit the Black Hawk and became a carefree and leisurely person. In this way, Ji Sun has a real identity in the Black Hawk, and the connections and prestige he has accumulated in the past 5 years are enough. If you want to resolve the conflict between the two parties, mediation is the best way. It's a good idea, but after I hand over the Black Eagle to Ji Sun, we will get married and announce it to the public. Isn't this the most direct way? Chang Junlin. For the Black Hawk, this is naturally the best of both worlds. They had nothing to lose. All the risks were borne by Zhang Junlin. If he was just the leader of the extreme, this matter would be simple, but his identity is very sensitive. Turning a blind eye to the relationship between him and Ji Sun is considered acquiescence, but you can't make it public and slap them in the face. If you really want to slap them in the face, things will be very complicated. This is just like diplomatic relations, things that have been agreed upon and everyone has acquiesced in, sometimes cannot be brought to the table. If it is really brought to the table, it will be a different attitude. Isn't Mr. Zhang unwilling? Lu Ziwen asked in a leisurely manner. He picked up the fragrant black tea and took a sip. He felt very comfortable and asked the question to Zhang Junlin. This was the fastest way to resolve the conflict. I'll try my best. Zhang Junlin couldn't make a promise. There were too many people he had to deal with, and the attitude of these people was very clear. Publicizing it to the outside world meant that he might lose control of the Yakuza. This is absolutely unacceptable. This is his bottom line. But there's no guarantee. Lu Ziwen was really surprised. He leaned lazily on the back of his chair and curled his lips slightly. 5 years ago, Zhang Junlin would have absolutely rejected it, even Ji Sun would have rejected it before he was injured. How can there be a sentence like "I try my best"? And people like him, who say they will do their best, will really try their best to do it, deal with it, and compromise. Lu Ziwen did not expect that Zhang Junlin would take a step back for Ji Sun. The two looked at each other. Although they had always been hostile and did not like each other, they understood each other's style and personality very well. Lu Ziwen also knew that Zhang Junlin was within his acceptance range and had retreated to the edge of his bottom line. Lu Ziwen, you are young and the same age as Ji Xian, why did you give up Black Eagle? Zhang Junlin asked, are you sincere, or are you testing me? The Black Hawk has never been my life goal. Lu Ziwen looked into the distance. I am young, Mr. Zhang, how old do you think I am this year? Zhang Junlin didn't want to guess. He knew that Lu Ziwen had lived a lifetime, but he didn't know about the curse, nor did he know that he had lived for a long time. His dislike of Lu Ziwen was purely because their personalities were too similar, and they repel each other. Mediation still has to be done, Zhang Junlin said. If you don't want to do it, Ji Dao will set up a special team to deal with this matter and give you a result. But I have the ugly words ahead. If something like this happens again, I won't let you go so easily. Okay, I'll discuss what to do with Rong Li later, and Ji Sun will recover from his injuries. When he recovers, I will officially hand over Black Eagle to him, Lu Ziwen said calmly. Zhang Junlin, I hope you don't let Ji Sun down. He loves you far more than you think. There is one thing I didn't want to mention, but since we have talked about it, let's talk about it, Zhang Junlin asked. Even if I was an undercover agent in Wujiazhu under a pseudonym back then, if you really wanted to find me, wouldn't you be able to find me? How should I describe this matter? It's a bit complicated, Lu Ziwen sighed. I was considered a dual personality, as you generally know. My memories during the day and night are not connected to each other. During the day, I was a racing driver. I studied normally and raced. I have to deal with Black Hawk's affairs at night, and Black Hawk has a fierce internal struggle. It's not that I can't find you. I have a lot of important things to do. Looking for you for Ji-sun is on my to-do list. I can't be ranked. Ji-sun and I have just met. How could I spend manpower, material and financial resources to find you for Ji-sun? Black Hawk has so many things waiting for me to handle, and I can't delay even a minute. Zhang Junlin did not expect that this was the reason. It's human nature. Zhang Junlin said that if it was the same for him, he would be the same person as Lu Ziwen. At least there would be better reasons than he had to doubt. Did you also leave him a fake address? Zhang Junlin nodded. The address was still fabricated. Lu Ziwen smiled. He didn't say, did he write you a letter? Zhang Junlin shook his head, and Lu Ziwen said calmly, after knowing that you left a fake name and that you were not among those people, Ji-sun became very decadent and disappointed. I was very busy at that time, and he was afraid of troublesome me. So he wrote to you, maybe with a glimmer of hope. The name was fake, maybe the address was real, so he wrote a lot of letters. Every time he finished writing, he checked the address carefully and went to the post office to drop it off himself. He sent it, and wrote his contact information in every letter, but every letter fell into the sea. He must have written more than 300 letters one after another. It was not until a year later that he checked the address himself and found that it was he never wrote the fake address again. Zhang Junlin was startled and tightened his fists. He could imagine how helpless and painful the 15-year-old Ji Xian must be, waiting eagerly for a reply every day. But his letters were sent out like snowflakes and eventually disappeared into the sea. Lu Ziwen committed murder. Do you still remember the address you left back then? After Zhang Junlin came out of the tea house, he tried his best to recall, what was the address where he and Ji-sun stayed. That memory was a bit blurry. He always had a very good memory and kept looking through his memory to find out when he told Ji-sun his address. Zhang Qiang, if the letter from the post office cannot be sent to the address, will it be saved? This is Zhang Qiang's knowledge blind spot. I don't know. Go and get some advice. Yes. We'll update again in the evening. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 596. Chapter 596, There's a long way to go. When Zhang Junlin returned home, he heard the sound of mahjong. He frowned slightly. Ji-sun was still recovering from his injuries. Why were they playing mahjong? His room was on the left side of the entertainment room. If the window was open, he could hear it clearly. He put down the computer and was about to go upstairs when he heard a familiar voice, touch. Zhang Junlin had already stepped on the stairs. He turned his head in confusion and looked towards the entertainment room. He walked over with a gentle step and saw Ji-sun, Gu Ziyu, and the old lady. The old lady was playing mahjong. Zhang Minghua was out for something. Lin Chunli watched them play mahjong. Ji-sun and Gu Ziyu sat opposite, the old lady and the old man sat opposite. Gu Ziyu had a thick stack of chips in front of him, and Ji-sun only had a few pitiful chips left. Obviously one loses three. Are you in such a good mood? Zhang Junlin walked over with a smile, put a hand behind Ji-sun, and patted him on the shoulder. The old man and the old lady had rosy faces and looked very happy. Ji-sun grimaced and said, I lost 800 yuan. There are only a pitiful 200 chips left. With a pile of thick chips in front of him, Guzio was obviously the big winner. The young man was eating fruit and playing mahjong, feeling very happy. Uncle, you can't teach him, that's cheating. Why are you still bullying others? Ji-sun kicked Guzio. Guzio whistled, you have to recognize that your skills are inferior to others, brother. Zhang Junlin looked around carefully and saw that 3 lost to 1, not 1 lost to 3. The old man and the old lady also lost, but not that much. Unlike Ji-sun, whose underwear was almost taken off. The old man said, if Xiao-sun is afraid of losing, let Junlin take your place. Isn't he cheating? Ji Huan smiled. My grandparents don't have the fun of playing mahjong, so I should play with you, and we can play together at a normal level without him. Zhang Junlin raised his lips and changed his words in just one afternoon. How long have you been fighting? 1.5 hours. Zhang Junlin nodded, fight for another hour and then rest. Oh. Zhang Junlin got up and went upstairs to change into home clothes. The old lady and the old man looked at each other and asked Ji-sun, is he usually so domineering? It's not bad, Ji Xian said, is it very overbearing? The old man said, playing mahjong still takes care of time. This is not overbearing enough. It is a bit controlling. My grandson is naturally very familiar with temperament. He is also very controlling at work and has a strong grasp of the rhythm of his own life. However, he did not expect that he would also become a control freak when it comes to love. Can Ji-sun endure this? Lin Chunli also felt that Zhang Junlin was a bit strict. Ji Yu knew that Zhang Junlin was very controlling. In fact, both he and Zhang Junlin were very controlling, but they showed it in different ways. Ji Yu saw that both the old man and the old lady had misunderstood, so he happily pretended to be happy with it. The more pitiful he was, the more the old man loved him. Guzio said in Arabic, be careful not to overact, or you may overturn. What are you muttering about? The old lady laughed and scolded. Sing Guzio's face was all smiles, and Ji-sun also pretended to be innocent. He woke up in the afternoon and had nothing to do. He couldn't just sit and chat awkwardly with the elderly. Guzio suggested playing mahjong. Ji-sun's mahjong and beginners are no different and have no technical skills. The old lady and the old man have been playing mahjong all their lives. Guzio is smart and has a talent for playing mahjong. He is very lucky and can always catch a good deck of cards and play 2 games. I haven't lost much since I was a kid. Zhang Junlin changed into home clothes. He had saved some work. After thinking about it, he put his work aside and handed it over to Dr. North. He came down to play cards with Ji-sun. He pulled up a chair and sat next to Ji-sun. Guzio said, Uncle, watch the cards without saying a word, don't cheat. Hit you. Ji-sun turned around and chuckled. With their elders here, it was hard for them to do intimate things. Zhang Junlin knew why Ji-sun lost after watching one game. He didn't remember the cards very much when playing cards. He only cared about the cards in his hand, regardless of what others wanted. No, it will be easy to shoot. Zhang Junlin said, take a closer look at what cards the next player is playing, which ones he wants and which ones he doesn't want. When you remove the cards, give priority to the cards he doesn't want. Ji-sun's next family is the old man. What's the deal with not saying anything about the cards? I'm giving him some advice, he's too stupid. Zhang Junlin raised his hand and rubbed Ji-sun's hair, study hard. Ji-sun's pear dimples are looming, I know, brother. The tone is extremely good. A few people are still a little confused about Ji-sun's route. Didn't the little white floral vest fall off? Are you really not going to change your character? Ji-sun especially loved the little white flower and green tea characters. Once the characters collapsed, he never planned to replace them with new ones. Throughout the whole process, he just obeyed and called brother, whatever Zhang Junlin said. He was extremely well behaved. After playing 4 games, Ji Sun lost all his 1000 yuan in chips. He said aggrievedly, "Brother, I'm too stupid. I can't learn anything." Gu Ziyu rubbed his goosebumps and said, "Brother, you are so disgusting. Stop it. I'm going to vomit." "That's because you ate too much," Zhang Junlin said. Gu Ziyu. The old man and the old lady were overjoyed. Ji Sun had lost all his money, and he was injured and could not sit for too long. It was not time to change the dressing yet. Zhang Junlin helped him sit in the living room. He never mentioned the letter and just looked at Ji Sun. Sun's eyes showed pity that he didn't even notice. "Does the wound hurt after sitting for so long?" Ji Sun shook his head. "It doesn't hurt. You have to say it out loud if it hurts, don't hold it back just to please grandpa and grandma. They are your grandpa and grandma, and I want to please them." "The days are long," Zhang Junlin said softly, "besides, you are very lovable just being yourself. The holiday renewal fee is insufficient." End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 597. Chapter 597, Should engagement be put on the agenda? In Nanjing Hospital, Gu Ci received a call from the provincial hospital just after her ward rounds, hoping that she could go to the hospital. The provincial hospital arranged Chen Lianjie's brain surgery today. The craniotomy was very dangerous. 2 cell tumors grew on the nerves. Nearby, a slight mistake can turn Chen Lianjie into cerebral palsy or a vegetative state. Chen Lianjie's surgery was performed by some of the best doctors in the country. I don't know why Chen Lianjie named Gu Ci to participate in the operation. With Gu Ci's qualifications when I arrived at the provincial hospital, I worked as an assistant for them and mostly watched from the sidelines. Gu Ci didn't want to get into trouble, so she declined the invitation from the provincial hospital, saying that she had an operation in the afternoon. After refusing, she spoke to Zhang Junlin, who nodded, "Good refusal, don't wade into troubled waters, his operation went well with it has nothing to do with us." Gu Ci nodded, she didn't want to go, and Chen Lianjie couldn't force her. Gu Ci was busy in the hospital until dusk, and Lu Ziwen brought Gu Ziyu to pick her up. The sun was coming out from the west, and he hadn't brought Li Zhang out yet. Gu Ci was a little surprised. She quickly walked through the special passage of the hospital and arrived in front of the father and son. Gu Ziyu was biting a lollipop and was arguing with Lu Ziwen about something. When Gu Ci came closer, the father and son stopped arguing. They all put on a smiling face. "Gu Ci, why are you here?" Gu Ziyu answered quickly, "Dad said that he hasn't eaten out with you for a long time. He always eats at Universal and lacks some sense. He doesn't want to take me with him at all, but I am a tool. Without me, you can't date. So miserable." Gu Ci. Lu Ziwen looked at how cheap he was and didn't refute. He could endure it without Gu Ziyu, but Gu Ci wouldn't be willing to be with him. He would have known better and wouldn't have told her. "Why do you want to go out to eat all of a sudden?" Gu Ci was confused. Lu Ziwen opened the door and said, "Get in the car first." It was the peak time for the hospital to get off work, and people were coming and going, including family members and patients. Lu Ziwen's global star face stood out and everyone took photos. Gu Ci got in the car and Lu Ziwen drove the car himself. Since the car accident, Lu Ziwen rarely drives. As a close guard, Li Zhang drove more often. Gu Ziyu was sitting in the back seat, not playing with his mobile phone. He asked Gu Ci, "Mom, why did you call me for Chen Lianjie's surgery?" "I don't know, maybe I want to add double insurance. He trusts my medical skills very much, and I don't know why." Gu Ci could feel that Chen Lianjie trusted her in both his medical skills and his character. "Is Director Chen in the hospital?" Lu Ziwen asked. Guzio nodded and glanced at his phone. I asked, but the operation is not over yet. His operation is quite complicated and very dangerous. Mom, if you want me to tell you, you should go. If there is any danger, you turning the tide is a life-saving favor for him, and he is his reborn parent. He should remember this kindness so that he won't embarrass his uncle in the future. Gu Si raised her eyebrows and said with a smile, you just want the operation to be successful. What if it fails? Are you going to get into trouble? How could mom fail? Gu Zio never thought that Gu Si would fail. Lu Ziwen and Gu Si looked at each other and smiled. Gu Si said, thank you, honey, for speaking so highly of my mother. That's necessary. Mom is the best doctor in my heart. What about me? Lu Ziwen asked. The best racing driver. Isn't this globally recognized? I am also one of the people in the world. Several people laughed, and the car slowly drove out of the hospital. A family of 3 went out to eat without Li Jiang and Conway. This was the first time, and it was quite new, just like an ordinary family of 3. Gu Si actually there is a miraculous sense of warmth. Lu Ziwen's eyes fell on her. Gu Si didn't like to smile, but after coming out of the hospital, she never let go of her lips. She was always happy. Lu Ziwen secretly thought that maybe he could pick Gu Si up to have dinner with her after get off work. It's okay to bring the wronged son with you. Is it really okay not to take Li Jiang with me? Gu Si asked, still a little worried. Lu Ziwen said, it doesn't matter. Gu Zio said, actually, I suggested to them that they reduce the number of guards. The country is still very safe. Why spend so much money on security a year? My uncle and brother have too many security guards and they can't live in the house. When my brother recovers from his injuries, he will be kicked out to start his own business and will not be allowed to live at home. This is necessary. Lu Ziwen didn't explain much. Gu Zio spread his hands and said, Dad, Grandma asked about you today. What did you ask? Gu Zio said tentatively, she asked you when you would like to come home for a meal. My brother and uncle's engagement is on the agenda. What about you and your mother? Do you need to have an explanation? Lu Ziwen. Gu Si covered her mouth and chuckled, looking at Lu Ziwen jokingly, yes, third brother, do you need an explanation? End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 598. Chapter 598. Gu Zio is a sensitive word. Gu Si and Gu Zio didn't have the same understanding. Gu Zio didn't know that Gu Si and Lu Ziwen had mentioned that the elders in the family saw that the 3 of them got along well. Gu Zio occasionally came to Universal to spend the night on weekends. Gu Si I haven't stayed overnight at Universal for several years, but I have stayed a few times recently. The elders thought that the relationship had broken the ice, and they were thinking that Ji Sun and Zhang Junlin were also talking about getting engaged, and whether Gu Si and Lu Ziwen should also settle down together. Zhang Minghua and Lu Ziyi are very familiar with each other. Lu Ziyi has mentioned this matter. Lu Ziwen and Gu Si are not young anymore and they should have settled. Zhang Minghua knows that Gu Zio is Lu Ziwen's son. Every time he faces Lu Ziyi, he feels very guilty. Lu Ziyi didn't know that he had an eldest grandson, and now he has become the eldest grandson of the Zhang family. If Lu Ziyi knew about it, he would definitely make a big fuss, so no one told him. Zhang Minghua still felt very guilty, which led to the business of the Lu family chaebol. He often gave up profits for the first time, which made Zhang Junlin complain about him several times. Lu Ziwen was silent and did not speak. Recently, many people talked to him about meeting his parents. Gu Si said it, Lu Ziyi said it, and now, people from the Zhang family also mentioned it. Dad, why are you silent? Gu Si met him and was silent for a long time. He was a smart child and was afraid of embarrassing his mother. He said in a relaxed tone, "Don't be too stressed. Grandma estimates that the grandson's engagement will take a long time. It's so troublesome to hold one event and one for my granddaughter's engagement. Just hold two. It's more cost-effective to charge two for the same banquet." Gusi. Luziwan. Guziu, where did you learn this little abacus? Luziwan really found it incredible that Guziu's temperament should have been that of a young man who didn't like the fireworks of the world. In his last life, he was world-weary, socially fearful, didn't like to socialize with others, and didn't understand the ways of the world. He was like a little poisonous snake. When he first came here, he would pretend to be a child, but he was actually an adult. He was taken care of by Chen Liangdong for several years. Is really full of fireworks. He was pulled down from the altar by Chen Liangdong. Now I ask Guziu how much a pound of cabbage and pork in the market is, and he can answer it fluently. He is a little soldier of the National Security Bureau who knows the people's livelihood well. Now he even drinks banquets and accepts gifts. Got it all. You don't need to learn this. My great-grandma and my great-grandma said yesterday that they can finally get back the money they spent on socializing for a year. An engagement is treated as a wedding. It's a pity that it can't be held twice, and it can be collected twice. Gusi. Gusi chuckled and said, "Don't listen to them. If you want to go, we will go. If you don't want to go, forget it." Guziu thought to himself, why is his father still unwilling to come home for dinner? Is it because he is adopted and he feels uncomfortable? This topic did not come to a conclusion. Several people arrived at the place to eat. Whether it was Luziwan or Zhang Junlin, there were special restaurants and private rooms for eating. They rarely went to ordinary restaurants. Today they came to an internet celebrity restaurant and queued up. Especially a few days ago, Gusi was talking about opening an internet celebrity restaurant and wanted to eat with Zhou Jinjin. Zhou Jinjin had been busy filming and letting her go. After Luziwan heard it, he became interested and went to pick up Gu. When Ci and Zi met, they asked Li Jiang and Conway to queue up, each with a number. When they came, it was Li Jiang's turn to have the number in his hand, and he went in without having to wait for a table. They were sitting in the dining room eating, and people were coming and going. Luziwan caused quite a stir as soon as he came in. Some people secretly took photos, but Luziwan turned a blind eye, as long as they didn't disturb him while eating. This family of three is absolutely good looking. Even in a crowded restaurant, they can look like a poster. When they were ordering, two young girls came over and wanted autographs. Luziwan refused. They refused to accept it during private dining time. "Excuse me," the little girl was rejected. Although she was disappointed, she didn't bother. Someone in the restaurant kept taking photos and videos. Guziu asked, "Dad, did you invest in this restaurant? The star effect is also great." "I invested in it. Will I let Li Jiang come and line up? Perhaps the prince wants to enjoy a day like an ordinary person." Think too much. Luziwan checked two dishes and showed the menu to Gusi and Ziu. They both chose what they liked. The three of them ordered 8 dishes, and the more popular ones basically ordered one. Li Jiang and Conway also came in to eat, and they all got their numbers anyway. Social networking platforms are exploding. After Luziwan retired, he lived in seclusion and it was hard to see him. People who came to the world specifically to stay could not find his photo. His endorsement contracts were all terminated when they expired. There was no news about him. He retreated from the brilliant racing driver behind the scenes and became a dark man. Fans also viciously cursed him whether his legs were disabled and he needed a wheelchair. Otherwise, why would he give up his racing career? San Shao said back then that when he reached his 7th or 8th decade, he would still have to fight the field. His love for racing was his lifelong career. No one thought that Luziwan would retire unless he really had a physical problem. Over the years, Universal has officially announced his retirement without holding a press conference. The hero on the field has just retired quietly, and no one will say anything about the talent. Nowadays, he is in good health and looks good. The woman next to him is still Gucci, like a couple of gods. If Gucci was not 1.7 meters tall but looked like 6 or 7 years old, they would all misunderstand Lu Ziwen and Lu Ziwen. Gu Xiyin got married and gave birth to a child. Lu Ziwen has been hiding for many years and finally appears. Is his leg healed? The name of the restaurant has been announced and I'm going to have a chance encounter. Is it too late to have a chance encounter now? Oh my god, I'm really in tears. I haven't seen him for a few years. I really thought he gave up racing because of paralysis in a car accident. Can I still see Lu Ziwen on the track? This year's defending champion of F1 racing is trembling. Is Lu Ziwen planning to return as the king? Sisters, is there anyone who can meet me by chance? After so many years of going around in circles, Gu Ci is still the same. I am a fan and champion fan of Lu Ziwen, but I have changed my mind. Sisters, can someone tell me who the younger brother is in the photo? I am deeply obsessed with Yanggu again. Add 1. The whole screen is full of Lu Ziwen. I'm embarrassed to say who this younger brother is. It's a shame not to make a debut with such good looks to benefit the audience. Someone posted a comparison of the photo of Gucci 5 years ago and the current photo. Gucci has grown up and his appearance is easy to recognize. Soon someone took out the photo of Gucci's doctorate in University A and found out that but 10 minutes later, Gucci became a sensitive word and could not be mentioned on the entire network. Every time it was mentioned, it would be deleted. Netizens were dumbfounded and fell into confused silence. I seem to smell an unusual smell. I am stubborn. After a little digging into his information, he was banned. Family members, this is my 6th trumpet. Everybody. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 599. Chapter 599. Shocking nightmare. Gucci doesn't like to read social news. For him, it doesn't matter which star is in love or which drama is popular. He followed Chen Liangdong and has a very old school style. He likes to read the news and all kinds of national news, international news, etc., in addition to caring about people's livelihood, are also related to international relations, comprehensive strength, etc. He never reads gossip news. He knows which celebrity is the most popular in the country. But he couldn't stand it. Several female doctors in his team surfed the internet every day, and soon told him the news on the internet. As soon as Gucci became popular, the National Security Bureau detected it, directly notified the internet security, and jointly suppressed the popularity. Netizens also reverse psychology: the more you press the heat, the more I oppose it. I always feel like I can dig out a big news, and the marketing accounts are swarming. The network security has no choice but to directly block and delete all Gucci's messages. His information cannot be dug deeply. A young doctor who is under the age of 18 and is already a section-level cadre in the National Security Bureau cannot be justified anywhere. Netizens don't know the details, so they will definitely target Gucci, not to mention that he does have a prominent background. Now he is Zhang Junlin's son. My father is the president of Hualien Bank, my grandfather is the chairman of Hualien Bank, and my grandma is the chairman of the Women's Federation of City A. Although my great-grandfather and great-aunt are retired, they are also the biggest names in the industry. With such a prominent background, they were at the science level at the age of 13. Gucci can be drooled with saliva. No matter how many cases Gucci has solved or how many losses he has recovered, the public can only see that Gucci has a prominent background and has risen to great heights. They will definitely make groundless speculations and the pressure of public opinion will accompany them. Throughout Guzio's life, he will be supervised by the public and must not make mistakes throughout his life. Any small mistake will be magnified infinitely. It is not good for Guzio's development, so the best way is to hide his identity from the beginning. It is the limit to know that he is the youngest doctor in University A. Hey, it's all my fault for this face, it's so good looking. Guzio looked at his face with a spoon, and was very satisfied with this wonderful face. When he was a child, he didn't have the concept of being good looking. Now that he has grown up and his appearance has improved, people around him will always praise him for his good looks. Guzio has gradually developed a concept of beauty and ugliness, and also knows that he is good looking. Lu Ziwen chuckled and said, "Who do you look like with this narcissistic look?" "Looks like you," Guzio said. "Don't you look like a peacock spreading its tail on the field?" "Don't spread rumors, I only open my mouth in front of Xiaosai." "Ah. The dishes at the internet celebrity restaurant all look very good to me, and the taste is not amazing, nor is it unpalatable. For a family of 3 who are not picky eaters, it is quite passable. If it were Zhang Junlin, he would not even eat a bite. We'll move." Before the meal was finished, a bunch of fans gathered outside the restaurant. They held up their mobile phones and wanted to take a photo. Lu Ziwen had more fans than the top idols. Before he retired, he was one of the most famous people in the world. Top notch, it creates a sensation wherever it goes. Now 5 years later, its charm has not diminished. Li Jiang's head is getting big. Someone needs to get mixed up in the crowd and take advantage of the chaos to shoot. Something will happen. Lu Ziwen was not worried at all. Gu Si said, "Next time you want to come out, change your face. Must be disguised. Then will others say that you are in love with someone else?" Gu Si. There is a staff passage in the restaurant. They left through the staff passage after eating. The fans outside did not know it. They stopped shopping in the mall after leaving. Lu Ziwen took them to the night market. The mall is now a Korean street, with many Japanese and Korean shops. The authentic restaurant and night market were very lively. Lu Ziwen learned his lesson and put on a hat and mask. Guzio walked with them, 30 meters apart, like a particularly eye-catching light bulb. Gu Si and Lu Ziwen clasped their fingers together, and belatedly realized that this was a date. Normal love and dating don't just mean eating together, shopping, watching movies, eating, drinking and having fun. When Lu Ziwen was popular all over the world, it was difficult for them to date quietly. There were a lot of people wherever they went. The only time they went to the movies was with them. Guzio almost caused a commotion this time. Lu Ziwen tried his best to give her a love experience. "Why do you want to go out to eat on a whim?" Gu Si asked knowingly. Lu Ziwen looked sideways at her and held her hand tightly. "You and I have never had a decent date. We are always eating and having fun around the world. Isn't it boring?" "No way," Gu Si didn't feel bored at all. Lu Ziwen's sensitive identity meant that he couldn't show up. Even if he went on a date in public, Li Jiang would accompany him. Universal's basic necessities, housing, transportation, eating, drinking and entertainment are integrated. She can see the best scenery, eat the best food, bowl, play squash, sing, dance, and watch movies. Universal's entertainment is very comprehensive. Lu Ziwen's character could never leave the world for the rest of his life, so she accommodated him and didn't feel bored. Because it was Lu Ziwen, Gu Si felt that everything would be good. "But I feel sorry for you," Lu Ziwen said softly. "Other girls go on dates and take their boyfriends out every day. Wherever there is a new restaurant, they will go to eat together. If there is a good musical, they will also go to listen to it together. We can travel together and watch the sunrise and sunset together, which other girls have, but you don't have. What he brings is suffering." Lu Ziwen, "I have what others dream of." Gu Si looked at him with a half smile. "What?" You, Gu Si held his hand and said softly, you are the dream of thousands of girls. If you like anyone, she will give her heart and soul to you, but it is me, you are the one who shines the most. I am a girl who hides treasures, and many people can't envy her, so don't worry so much, I am willing to accompany you all over the world for the rest of my life. Gu Si can also sense Lu Ziwen's anxiety, perhaps because of the curse. He wants to be alone with her and live a world of two. Gu Si could actually understand Lu Ziwen. She was not anxious, but she had no choice. Lu Ziwen was very tight-lipped about the matter. No matter how she pressed him, Lu Ziwen never revealed the news about the curse and insisted that he didn't know how to lift it. It was just an accident that Zia could relieve his pain. Gu Si also thought about it, if Zia's fate could break the curse, would she be willing? Like lotuses, one withered and the other flourishing, she could choose one of the two, if her son dies or Lu Ziwen lives, would she like it? Gu Si thought to herself, she doesn't want to. Just as Lu Ziwen was about to speak, Gu Si's phone rang suddenly. She frowned slightly. It was Dr. North's call. She answered it with a smile, Master. Ziasai, the master has had a car accident, come to Nanjing Hospital quickly. Gu Si froze. End of this chapter. Shocking. She came back with a smaller version of the boss. Author, and knows. Chapter 600. Chapter 600, Love is Dizzying. Lu Ziwen sent Gu Si and Gu Ziu to the hospital. Gu Si was sweating coldly along the way, and Gu Ziu's face was even more serious. Ji Sun was recovering from his injuries. The matter was sealed and Ji Sun and his family were not informed. Gu Si was sitting in the passenger seat. On the bed, her whole body was torn apart, and nightmares controlled her mind like a shadow. She was trapped in the boundless darkness and had to live a new life. Lu Ziwen was still controlled by the curse. He always wanted to leave. His brother was still in a car accident, and he would lose both hands. Have a disabled leg and be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life? She is so proud and such a good brother, can she still not escape her fate? Is it the fate of the previous life, going round and round, still on the established track? A layer of cold sweat broke out on Gu Si's back. She felt suffocated. She rolled down the window and the early autumn wind blew in. Her body was cold and there was an indescribable feeling of suffocation. Lu Ziwen reached out and held her hand. Gu Si's my hands felt cool. Lu Ziwen, no one can escape this destiny. No, Lu Ziwen said, don't think too much. Gu Si couldn't bear to think about it. She was in a nightmare and couldn't break away. Soon she arrived at the hospital. Zhang Qiang was guarding outside. Nanjing Hospital was owned by her and the entire floor was empty. Zhang Qiang rushed forward and said, Miss Gu Si, don't worry, it's just a small scratch. It's not a problem. Gu Si felt relieved all the way and hurried to the ward to see Zhang Junlin. Zhang Junlin knew it was a misunderstanding as soon as he saw her expression, a little scratch, it doesn't matter. Gu Ziu lifted up his loose trousers and said it was a scratch, but he needed more than 20 stitches. The glass scratched his calf and the flesh was bloody. It was not a small scratch. Gu Si imagined the worst outcome and saw that it was a scratch. Extremely fortunate. In addition to scratches, are there any injuries? No, Zhang Junlin chuckled and said, if you don't believe me, ask North. North said, no more. But her expression was not good. Lu Ziwen was outside the door and did not come in. Knowing that Zhang Junlin was fine, he sent a text message to Gu Si and left. Gu Si and Gu Ziu both frowned, what happened? Zhang Junlin came back from socializing today. He was hit by an out-of-control truck while passing by an intersection. The car driven by Zhang Qiang had already flexibly avoided when he saw the large truck running out of control and hit him, but he was still injured. Zhang Junlin was always in the back row. They were not in the habit of wearing seat belts. Zhang Qiang was not injured. Instead, he was scratched by the glass. After the accident, the truck driver was controlled. Zhang Qiang is Zhang Junlin's close guard. He has strong professional skills for more than 10 years and rarely makes mistakes. He has never made such a low-level mistake of colliding with others. Gu Xi remembered that Zhang Junlin was in a car accident in the previous life and he was the one driving the car. Not Zhang Qiang. Is it a premeditated murder? Gu Ziyu asked. Zhang Junlin's face darkened. There is no result yet, it may not be. Dr. North has given him a comprehensive examination and determined that there is nothing wrong. He can be discharged from the hospital after suturing his injuries. However, Dr. North had concerns about the car accident and asked Zhang Junlin to be hospitalized. Go home, Zhang Junlin said calmly, there is no need to be hospitalized for this minor injury. Zhang Qiang found a wheelchair. Gu Ziyu received a call from Chen Liangdong, asking him to go back to the station. National security guards were waiting for him downstairs. Gu Ziyu, Gu Xi, and Zhang Junlin said so and went downstairs. Go. After Zhang Junlin sat in the wheelchair, the ominous premonition in Gu Xi's heart became stronger, it was so similar. She looked at Zhang Junlin steadily. The scenes of her past and present lives overlapped. If she was to be torn apart, Gu Xi hid her fear. Zhang Qiang and Jin Wei sent them home. Gu Xi secretly sent a message asking Dr. North, "Are you really okay?" Dr. North was also on his way to the National Security Bureau and asked Gu Xi, "It's okay. Don't worry." On the way back, Zhang Qiang wanted to switch to a guard to drive, but Zhang Junlin said, "Zhang Qiang." With just a name, Zhang Qiang obeyed the order and sat in the driver's seat again. Gu Xi and Zhang Junlin were silent the whole time on the way back. Gu Xi asked, "Brother, does this look like a premeditation?" "I can't tell." Zhang Junlin crossed his hands in front of his abdomen. To be honest, at the moment of the car accident, he remembered Ziyu's words and deliberately protected his legs. He was also afraid that he would not be able to escape the destined fate. He would still be in this life. There will be car accidents, he will still be in a wheelchair, and he will be kicked into the mud. "Xiao Ci, brother is fine, don't be sad." "I'm scared," Gu Xi said. "Has the case been transferred to the National Security Bureau?" Zhang Junlin nodded. When something happened to him, it would not be an ordinary case. It would be handled by the National Security Bureau. Zhang Junlin was calm and calm. It was rare to touch Gu Xi's face. "Be happy. When your grandparents see you like this when you go home, they should be worried." Gu Xi calmed down, and the fear was finally relieved. Zhang Junlin felt relieved when he saw this. He turned his head and looked out the window. Will the destined fate still happen? If you escape once, can you escape the second time? When returning to Jiang's house, Ji Huan, his grandfather and grandma were chatting and playing chess in the tea house. Grandma was making tea and having fun. When he saw Zhang Junlin in a wheelchair, Ji Huan's chess piece fell on the chessboard, disrupting the layout. He panicked. He stood up, forgetting that he still had a gunshot wound, and accidentally pulled his chest, causing heart-wrenching pain. Ji Xian turned pale and ran out in a hurry. The old man and the old lady were also stunned. "Brother, what's wrong with you? Be careful of your injuries." Ji Huan and Zhang Junlin spoke out almost at the same time. Global Center. Although Lu Ziwen went out to play as a family of 3, Li Zhang and others were hiding in the dark. After he left the hospital, Li Zhang took him back to Universal. Li Zhang said, "Mr. Zhang was hit. I'm afraid it was not an accident." "How was Chen Lianju's surgery?" "The operation was successful, but the other person did not wake up." Li Zhang was well informed. "Does the third master suspect that it is Chen Lianju? He happened to be undergoing surgery today. Could it be possible that he planned it in advance?" If he really wanted to hit Mr. Zhang, he wouldn't use such clumsy methods. It's too obvious. This is a warning. Lu Ziwen stood on the balcony of the top floor, looking at the thousands of lights. If he chooses to be with Ji Xian, this is a warning. If Black Eagle and Ji Dao unite, it will affect many people's cakes. When Lu Ziwen proposed marriage between Ji Huan and Zhang Junlin in the tea house, he himself made things difficult for Zhang Junlin. Unexpectedly, Zhang Junlin actually agreed. He and Ji Huan had been flirting with each other for so long, and no one touched him. As soon as Zhang Junlin proposed marriage, there was a car accident as soon as Zhang Junlin agreed. Apart from an accident, it was a warning. Accident. The traffic on the road was congested, and accidents were normal. He boasted of his excellent driving skills and had had accidents before, but Lu Ziwen still felt that it was more of a warning. If Zhang Junlin insisted on staying with Ji Sun, he would be in even greater danger. Big. The alliance between Ji Dao and Black Eagle is in itself transferring all risks to Zhang Junlin. Love is really dizzying, Lu Ziwen muttered to himself, not knowing what to say for a moment. End of this chapter.